Hi there, I'm Melissa Moody, co-founder of Wednesday Women and executive producer of The Ripple, bringing you a special series of episodes where we sit down with the incomparable Glo Harris. Glo has spent decades coaching and mentoring leaders at the world's most iconic companies, Google, Facebook, McKinsey, LinkedIn, Atlassian, Amex. And she's been kind enough to share with us the perfect mix of therapy-infused depth and executive insight. Her candid wisdom hits home on every level: how we work, how we lead, and how we show up for the people we love. So if you're looking to grow as a leader and as a human, come join me and let's get real with Glo. From her very beginnings in an entrepreneurial family, to motherhood, to women's rights activism, to becoming a psychotherapist and eventually an executive coach trusted around the world, Glo Harris's path is anything but linear. But every twist shaped the wisdom she now shares with so many leaders. Before I even started asking questions about executive leadership that I know Wednesday women would want to ask, I think it's pretty cool to get to know a bit about Glo herself, her background, her formative experiences, and how she became the powerhouse so many executives rely on today.
Well, I come from an entrepreneurial family where being really good at what you do mattered. I come from a family where education was primary and making straight A's was always the expectation. I veered a bit from that path when I decided at 19 to marry and have a child. And so I missed a good bit of my adolescence and my 20s, and I believe that I didn't really get into the world of work until my 30s. In my 20s, when I was raising children, I was in the world of work, but as a volunteer. So I set up a rape crisis counseling center in St. Louis. I, with others, set up the first illegal abortion center in St. Louis, where we sent women to New York. I did quite a lot around women's issues, even in my 20s. Toward the end of my 20s, I knew that my early starter marriage with 3 kids was not going to survive, and I needed to go back to school in order to be able to support my 3 children, because I was determined that I was going to take care of them. It was the women's lib area, and I didn't want to take any money from my successful lawyer husband. So I went back to school. I got a master's in social work. I got a lot of training out of how to be a therapist. Did a lot of work at the Gestalt Institute of Cleveland, Ohio. Not only was I a student there, but I also became a teacher there. And so I learned a lot about how to be a well-trained psychotherapist. So much in life happens serendipitously. And I was teaching at the Gestalt Institute and was part of this program called How to Apply Gestalt Techniques to the Boardroom. And many people in my cadre, there were 25 of us, I think, were from organizations, one of which was McKinsey and Consulting. And the woman who represented McKinsey was the head of learning and development. And she sat in London and we became friends. And she really wanted to recruit me out of my counseling practice, which was in Columbus, and join McKinsey full time. I wasn't ready to do that at that point. But one of the things that I am good at is curating my Rolodex. And so I stayed in contact with Catherine Thomas. And at the point that I wanted to move from Ohio to California, where grandbabies were being born, I knew that I needed to quadruple my income. And I got back in touch with Catherine Thomas. And although I was no longer needed to write the program and deliver the program to the McKinsey young consultants, I was easily hired by the people that were disseminating this work. And so for about 3 years, I continued my private practice and worked for McKinsey all over the world, delivering these either 1 or 2 week programs to, I would say, 30 to 33-year-olds who were in the beginnings of their careers at McKinsey. And into that process, I learned that I was really good at that. I guess I was calling myself a coach. I really have always been a psychotherapist and still am. However, my practice has shifted to working with corporate individuals. So started working with people at McKinsey, started working with people who leave McKinsey and come to California, where I was, like the early days of the tech boom, which introduced me very early on to Google, LinkedIn, Facebook, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Listeners, if you're anything like me, you want to know more about how Glo's decades of training and clinical work as a psychotherapist show up in her work as a coach, and how that differs from the more common path of business-first coaching.
I think that both avenues can be advantageous to the person who's looking for partnership with somebody who has something to give them. What I have to give is that I begin with knowing a lot about what makes people tick, knowing how to read people and pay real attention to who they are as human beings versus who they are as human doings. So the human being that I work with as a coach knows much more about the business in which they're embedded than I do. But what my gift is to helping them be who they are at work. How can they bring their whole human being to work and not get rid of their human doing? They have to be able to accomplish whatever the business goals are. Mm-hmm. Now, the person who starts with working in business and then deciding somewhere along the way in their 40s or 50s that they would really like to be coaches, they know a lot more than I do about the business world and ROIs and bottom lines, and they don't know as much about how to help the individual human being in front of them. They can be very, very helpful with the business ideas. And most people that are calling themselves coaches these days have gone through I would call a fairly brief amount of training into how to read people, how to develop emotional intelligence as well as intellectual intelligence. And so they've had some work getting feedback about how to be a better listener, how to get out of the way of the person sitting in front of them, how to do more asking than telling, how to drop their need to fix everything. Because when you come from business, you're hired to fix things. When you come from the background of psychotherapy, you are taught to help people to fix themselves.
Because so much of Glo's approach is rooted in Gestalt therapy, I asked her to share a bit more about what that actually means and how it shapes the way she reads people.
All psychology programs and social work programs still use mostly a Freudian or Rogerian model, which is the Rogerian model is mostly how to be present and how to listen effectively. The Freudian model is mostly helping people really look at childhood origins and to try to analyze deeply and intellectually how they might have become who they are. What the Gestalt work adds to both of those is that there's a lot of attention paid to looking at the whole being sitting in front of you. So how they use their body, how they use their head, how they use their eyes, what may be some tics that they have that they're not even aware of. What's their posture look like? And are you seeing something in front of you who hides, or someone in front of you who keeps their tits up.
At this point in our chat, I was curious whether Glo ever imagined a different path, or if she always knew that this work was her place.
I feel privileged, really privileged, that I discovered pretty early in my life that this is my raison d'etre. This is a given mission of aligning both what I am good at and what lights me up, what I love doing. I love hearing people's stories. I love becoming part of their stories. I cherish watching people know themselves better and, because of that, give themselves permission to thrive. That excites me.
In this interview, I asked many questions about executive leaders and how they approach success. But before we wrapped up our time together, I did ask Glo how she herself thinks about her own success and what it means at this stage of her life and career.
I mean, there's so many different measures of success. Absolutely, we want to be compensated for what we do. And that can be, I mean, everybody's love language is different, but we need to be well compensated, and we need to ask for more continually. That is a currency that matters. I also want to be rewarded with words, with flowers, with hugs, with people saying good things about me publicly, about being in a room and somebody saying, building on what Glo said, or as Glo said. I mean, these are ways that I can go home feeling like I mattered that day. I feel successful when I'm excited to get up in the morning and go to work, where I'm looking forward to the day. I come home and say, I made a difference, and I know how I made a difference. Well, I want to work with people who inspire me, who take an interest in me, who develop me, who I think care about me. I don't want to work someplace where I don't feel cared about.
Listeners, because I knew Glo would have a killer answer for this, I just had to ask one of my favorite questions, which is, what question should I have asked?
That's a great question to ponder, and that we should all be asking ourselves that question. It's kind of like, what matters most to you? I mean, that's the question. What matters most to you? And you've kind of asked it, but I think just that question, what matters most to you around the world of work? And I think for me, it's making a difference in the lives of others. It's been in the moments of intimacy that we've shared. It's in the paucity, the scarcity of small talk. It's been, it matters most to me to truly love the people that I come in contact with, and to be vulnerable with them and have them be vulnerable with me.
Finally, I couldn't resist asking her about age in the workplace, because her energy at 84 is extraordinary, and her take on staying powerful as you age is even better.
There's no reason why women can't still be in the executive suite when they're in their high 60s if they want to work that long. I think that if we retain I'm 84. If we retain our joie de vivre and our enthusiasm and excitement for what we're doing, that will come through in the interview. I still get hired. Why do I get hired at 84? Why do people want to keep coming to me? In fact, what I say now to people is, if I were you, I wouldn't hire me. I'm 84 years old. I'm just recovering from a very serious illness. I may last only another year. You're going to fall in love with me, and then you're going to be pissed off when I die. And they want me even more, because they want people, first of all, who say the truth, who don't hide behind, pretend to be 45 when they're really 55, who show enthusiasm for what they're doing. I mean, I have wisdom at 84 that a person doesn't have at 64 or 44.
Thanks for tuning in today, and don't miss the rest of our series with Glo, in which she gives real talk answers to the questions you're probably already asking. If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving us a rating that will help reach more listeners. And be sure to listen to other full episodes of The Ripple, spotlighting the stories and success of extraordinary executive women every week.